Welcome. It is so nice to see you all here. And while I know you really want me to stand here and talk about logistics, we're actually going to start with the why we are all here together. And I'm inviting our board chair, Linda McGinnis, to come up and share with us a little bit of her why.
Welcome, everyone. It is so good to see all these faces here. In addition to so many of our EAN members and public sector partners, I'd especially like to thank our speakers who are making the time to be here today with us. And I'd like to give a special shout out to some of the VCAN members who are here. This is their big week, and some VCAN members are here. Thank you for your dedicated work on the ground around this beautiful state. My name is Linda McGinnis, and I am the chair of the board of Energy Action Network, and I also serve there as a senior fellow. I'm not going to lie, these past few weeks have been rough. For anyone working on climate change or renewable energy or supporting our most vulnerable, our work just got a lot harder and a lot more uncertain. And each of us is dealing with that in different ways. For me, I'm usually someone who enjoys using my brain to identify challenges, to analyze them, to find solutions, and to move forward. I love working on the what of what we do in this network and the how of how we can get together and move forward. But I'm finding that sometimes the why gets lost in the process. And yet it's precisely the why that drives me. And it's not situated in my brain. The why is centered in connection. Connection to people, connection to place, connection to planet. And when things start looking dark and frankly insurmountable, I feel that I need to turn to the why. I step outside and I take a walk through the unimaginable beauty that surrounds us in Vermont. I make calls to the people that I love. I consciously witness the kindness of my neighbors, the caring of my friends, the strength of my community. I look into the eyes of my children and I know why I do what I do. And today, as I look around this room, I'd like to ask you all to think about the why. I feel hope and strength in this network, where despite the chaos, the blame, and the uncertainty, you show up. For those of you who have studied the recent science of trees, or of fungi, one of my favorite topics, as people know, some people know, you know that they communicate. They heal each other, and they find solutions to thrive through vast mycelial networks, very complex networks. They collaborate in ways that we can barely grasp, but we can certainly learn from. We are a network, in many ways mimicking the way that trees and fungi have collaborated for millennia. And when a network works at its best, it brings the strength and knowledge and experience of each of us in our respective important work together to achieve so much more than we can accomplish in our individual silos. Climate change is not going away. It's not slowing down, and it doesn't give a hoot about elections. And it feeds on fossil fuels. We know that in our bones. The good news is that the solutions are there. And even more encouragingly, the solutions to climate change and a clean energy transition are also solutions to long-term affordability, to cleaner air and water, to healthier homes, to preserving forests and biodiversity. But we need each other to make this happen at the pace and scale needed to meet the challenge, and to hold ourselves accountable to the next generation. We need the regulators and the implementers. We need the community leaders and the young people. We need the researchers, the legislators, the administration, the PUC. We need the clean energy developers, the efficiency experts, the installers, the financial institutions, and the advocates. We need the private sector, the public sector, nonprofits, utilities, universities, and volunteers. And you know what? This network contains them all. I have worked in dozens of other countries and states over my career, and nowhere have I seen what we have here in Vermont. We have on the one hand the famous Vermont 2 degrees of separation, where you're just 1 or 2 phone calls away from reaching just about anybody in the state. This holds us uniquely accountable to each other. And on the other, we have this network. A network of people whose everyday jobs contribute to precisely what we as a state are trying to achieve in addressing climate change, who show up and do the hard work, and who have the authority to, as my children say, make shit happen. And who know that our whole is so much bigger than the sum of our individual parts. We need all of you. No one said this was going to be easy. We are here in this for the long haul, and we are playing a long game. Here, and here, and here. I'm reminded of the words of the inimitable Rebecca Solnit from just a couple of weeks ago. She said, "The fact that we cannot save everything does not mean we cannot save anything. And everything we can save is worth saving." Just take a walk in this beautiful state, or look around this room, or at the faces of those you love. We have things to save. This network has achieved so much for Vermont over the past 15 years, and yet a network is really difficult to describe. I can vouch for that. I've been trying to do it for years. The 3 extraordinary staff members who are at this table, who I adore, are the EAN nonprofit, but they are not the network. You are. They provide the backbone support that makes your collaborative work easier, that provides the trusted data to help you chart pathways to accelerate a clean energy transformation affordably, and to monitor if we are actually doing it. They help bring diverse partners and experts to the table to work through some of the state's most challenging climate and energy issues. EAN's annual progress report, which I hope you all have and pick up more copies at the back of the room, is the single most utilized source of trusted data year in and year out for anyone working at the intersection of Vermont's climate emissions, energy, equity, and the economy. It contributes critical new research every year and holds us accountable to measuring progress consistently across all energy sectors and income levels, no matter who is in office. Your work through dozens of policy pitches, network action teams, and other collaborations has led to some of the country's leading climate and energy legislation and regulatory policy, some of which is already being replicated in other states, and all of which is showing results. So, as we face a new era of uncertainty, I invite you today and in the months ahead to take full advantage of the people we have in this room and throughout this network. Use those mycelial connections to dive deep into the what it is we can do in our state and the how we can do it together. Find solutions that reduce climate pollution and improve affordability. But never forget the why. Research shows that hope is a powerful antidote to despair. What's interesting, however, is that hope is not an emotion. Hope is a cognitive behavioral process. It's about having a goal, a pathway to achieve that goal, and a sense of agency, or I can do this. And that agency multiplies when the I becomes we. Energy Action Network does just that. So now, before we move on to Cara and Lena, I'd like to ask you to do something for me, please. I'd like to ask you to turn to your neighbor and introduce yourself if you don't know that person, and ask them just one question. Why do you do this work? And then answer that question yourself. Then we get down to business. Let's do this. Thank you.
I hope that everyone got a chance both to speak and to listen. People feeling a little more inspired coming into the day, I hope. I could listen to Linda talk about the why of the work we do all day. How about another round of applause for Linda? So now what you've all been waiting for, you do get the logistics. So I am Cara Robacek. I am the Deputy Director and Network Manager here at Energy Action Network. And I'm going to set a little bit more of the context for the day and sort of how we're going to go through the day. So what we are here for today is essentially two things. I'm going to add a third in a minute. But we're here to hear some of the priorities of our state leaders as we come out of an election, and to engage in conversation with one another, with our fellow network members and partners about the new and emerging challenges and opportunities at the federal and state levels. You'll notice probably that we have left a lot of space in the agenda for discussion, starting with that lovely discussion prompt from Linda. There's time over lunch, and there's a reception later today. So our agenda for the day. We're going to hear from staff from the federal delegation to start out. We'll have some time for lunch. We're going to hear from some of our statewide leaders. We'll have a little break, and we'll hear from some of our legislative leaders. And then again, we will have this reception at the end of the day. So I hope that you'll have time for some new information, a chance to ask questions that are pertinent to you, and a chance to chat with one another. Here's the real core of the logistics. We, for years, have used an app for the Q&A sections of our agendas, and we are doing that again today. And what that does is, instead of having people raise their hands and hearing from whoever's the first person to shoot their hand up, people type their questions in, and then you can upvote the ones that are of most interest to you. And that way we get the questions asked and answered that are of most interest to the most people. So I'm going to give you a moment. If you need the Wi-Fi code, it's on the bottom left. This QR code is also on your agenda, so you should have a lot. If you don't catch it right now, you'll have a chance to do that later. But we're going to use this Q&A function 3 times today, so you probably are going to want to have that up on your phone at some point, or your computer, if you have a computer with you. Okay. People are still working on that. I'll give you 20 seconds to do that. All right. So I'm going to add a third piece to the why we are here today, and that is Energy Action Network would like your feedback to help inform our priorities going forward in 2025. And again, EAN is 2 things, as Linda said. The first thing that EAN is this network of all of you. And so the priorities for how we work together as a network will come from you. And we're very curious to hear those today and in the next week or so. And then the second thing that EAN is, as Linda pointed out, is we're also a small staff organization that provides a lot of data analysis and supports the work of this network. And I want to take a step back because I'm going to talk about our stepping forward in 2025. So EAN started not as a nonprofit, but as a mapping exercise in which a lot of stakeholders in the energy space got together and figured out who was doing what and how best to collaborate with one another. And this was the work, I believe, of a year or two, several meetings. This was before I got involved. But it started with this network, how can we work together better exercise. And it was only after a lot of conversation that the network realized that there was enough there that they wanted to continue working together. And so a nonprofit was formed and the network continued to work together. So then early in the nonprofit's history, the nonprofit supported the network in different strategic leverage area working groups. How many of you were involved in one of these working groups at the time? I was not on staff at that point, but I was in the public engagement working group. So we had 4 working groups: policy and regulatory reform, capital mobilization, public engagement, technology innovation. All of those remain through lines in the work we do now, but we don't organize around those groups at this point. So what we've been doing over the last few years is we have had what we call network action teams, or working groups or coalitions. And these arose and were voted on by the network at our summits from 2020 onward. And several of these groups are still meeting: the Weatherization at Scale group, the Climate Workforce group, Thermal Energy Networks group. Those are all still meeting very regularly and trying to make progress in those areas. And there's some other groups that did work together for a while in the past and aren't working together anymore at this point. So I'm going through all of this history because, and through all of this, Lena will talk a bit more about this in a moment, but through all of this, the data and analysis has been a through line of our work. So, as we look toward the future, we have an ongoing commitment to sharing that best available data and producing new analysis. And we have an ongoing commitment to supporting the collective work of EAN's ongoing action teams, coalitions, and work groups. And if you are interested in any of those work groups and you're not involved in them, let me know, because we would love to engage you in those work groups. But we also are at a moment, this is a new moment as we go into 2025, where we could do new things. We could reinvigorate some of those old working groups. We could do another mapping exercise if that feels that it is useful. We could have different groups that we host. So this is where we want your help. In the back of the room, there are 4 flip charts. And you have an assignment today to go and look at those flip charts. There's sticky notes right beside them, Post-it notes. And what we'd love you to do is, if you have ideas of answers to those questions, write them down on a sticky note. If you don't mind, put your name on the back, and then we'll be able to contact you if we have questions. And then there's also some star stickers there. And if you see things that you think are a really good idea, add a star to those ideas. And then we'll know, oh, there's a lot of people who really think that this one is a good idea. You can use as many Post-it notes or stars as you want, and the colors don't make any difference. So really, we're just trying to get as many ideas out there as we can from all of you. All clear? Okay, so here's what you'll find on those flip charts. There is one that asks, on one side, what is the biggest gap or barrier you see to making progress towards Vermont's energy and climate commitments in 2025? And on the other side, what's the biggest opportunity you see? That's the one with the line down the middle. This is the one that I'm most interested in because I'm the network manager, and that is, what are the most valuable efforts or actions that multiple members of the EAN network can work on together in 2025? So we're not asking you to tell us what the staff should work on. We're asking you to tell us what all of us in this room should work on together in 2025. And that includes, are there additional working groups or network action teams that we should consider hosting? The third flip chart asks a much more specific question, which is, what speakers or topics would you like to see covered in an EAN webinar or in-person event in 2025? Okay, so we really want your feedback so much that I've put this at the bottom of your agenda, something that looks just exactly like this, reminding you to go check out the flip charts and put your ideas down, and also asking you to do an evaluation sometime in the next week or so, which you'll find through this other QR code. Don't do that right now, because it actually asks you to do a little bit of writing. We'll remind you of it, but that's going to be another place where we can get some feedback as we go into our planning for the coming year. So we hope that you will help us to plan and engage around all of this. We're so glad that you're here. And I am excited to invite my colleague Lena Steer up to talk a little bit about our data and analysis, research and analysis.
Thank you, Cara. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. So my name is Lena Steer. I'm EAN's Data Manager and Research Analyst. And I'm just going to give a brief overview of kind of what falls under the umbrella of research and analysis at EAN. So, of course, we produce our annual progress report each year on emissions, energy, equity, and the economy. And the report was published in October of this year. We have copies in the back if you want to grab one. We also mailed them out, and it's available online. So this report is really a way for us to compile the most up-to-date data, research, and analysis from a wide range of sources, as well as original analysis on climate solutions, opportunities, the economic benefits and costs, et cetera. And we also, on our website, at that link, have all of the graphics in the APR available to download. So please feel free to use those in any of your own reports or presentations. And in addition to the annual progress report, EAN staff, interns, and senior fellows also work on a number of other research projects and reports throughout the year, digging into other relevant climate and energy topics relevant to Vermont. And this includes in-depth analysis and reports, research briefs and two-pagers and blog posts. And I have a few of the most recent reports that we've published up here, and those are all available on our website as well. And then we also published these two interactive data dashboards, and these are both updated each year. So the first, sorry, I didn't go to the next slide. Sorry about that. Data dashboards. So the one on the left here is our Vermont Energy Dashboard. And this dashboard really tracks key clean energy technologies that were recommended in the 2021 Climate Action Plan. So that includes cold climate heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, electric vehicles, and weatherization projects. And that dashboard is updated on an annual basis. It was most recently updated in October. And both of those can be found on our website. I have the link up there as well. The dashboard on the right is our GHG, or greenhouse gas emissions dashboard. So in this dashboard really provides an interactive way of looking at Vermont's greenhouse gas inventory data from the Agency of Natural Resources. So you're able to really take a close look at each of the energy sectors, transportation, thermal, and electricity, and download the data from there as well. And the last area I wanted to cover is our collaboration and convening and the various ways that we do that. So first, through our Senior Fellows program. Senior Fellows are leading experts who engage with EAN on research and analysis that's relevant to the network's mission. We have several of our Senior Fellows here today, so just want to thank them for all of their great work. And then second, summer research interns. For the last 5 years, one of our Senior Fellows, Christine Donovan, has volunteered to lead our summer research internship program. And this program allows interns to spend 10 weeks during the summer working on really in-depth, relevant, timely research projects, culminating in a really in-depth report as well as a presentation to the network. And one of our interns from last year, Evelyn, is at the back there. And lastly, other forms of convening and collaboration include the Research and Data Collaborative, which we began convening in 2023. And this is a group of network members and partners who meet every 6 months or so. And it really provides a venue for information sharing and regular updates on new or emerging research. as well as an opportunity to identify priorities or ongoing gaps and needs when it comes to data and analysis. So back to the flip charts. All of that is to say that we would love to hear all of your feedback and your input on what new or updated research by EAN would be most valuable to your work as we head into 2025. I put my email up on this slide if you have any questions or suggestions, or please feel free to find me throughout the day. And we are going to move into our first panel of the day.